This is the Tom Baker Show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Tom Baker Show. We have got a very special guest. One of the things about me is that I've always been partial in motorsports to go-karting because it's a form of racing that is very entry level, and yet it is a form of racing that has literally probably tens of thousands or more all over the world competing. And actually outside of the United States, karting is much bigger than it is here in the U.S. But nonetheless, really enjoy the sport, the part of the sport that is go-karting. And we have a gentleman on this episode of the Tom Baker Show who has been a longtime supporter and participant and announcer and, gosh, who knows what else, but we're going to let him tell us. Tony the Toe Cirillo, talk about your background in karting a little bit.
All right, thanks, Tom. Started karting actually when I was a young boy. I had, when I was about 12, 13 years old, I had a Black Hawk kart. But I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and there wasn't much to do for racing there. I didn't get into racing go-karts until I was in my 30s. And with that, I got into four-cycle racing because I was into cars, and four-cycle engine is something that I understood better than a two-cycle. And eventually, one of the big events that started in four-cycle, once you race locally and you wanted to move up to a national level, it was the World Karting Association who had a series at the time. They called it the Four Cycle Olympics, later to become the Horseman Gold Cup. And then it was many other names after that. When Horseman sponsorship died out, it became other, but it was always the Gold Cup. And that was the height of four cycle racing. If you can race a Gold Cup race, and whether you win or not, you were gaining so much experience because you were racing with the best four-cycle drivers in the country. So that was where I started racing, and then that led to me working with becoming a New York State rep for WKA on the four-cycle side, eventually becoming a trustee at the World Karting Association, eventually becoming the secretary, eventually becoming the treasurer at one point. So I was very involved with WKA and building the four-cycle program and also helping other programs like the Enduros and the two cycles when I was a trustee. You know, you have to look at all angles. So that's so then the announcing part started. I was in Barnesville at one of their big events, and I've never been in a tower before, So I said to the owner, who was Mr. Dick Wilson, and he ran the Gold Cup Series. Gil Horseman hired him to keep order and run a good series, in which he did. I said, can I go up in the tower and look out? And he said, yeah, go ahead. So I went up in the tower and watching the carts go around. And at that time, they didn't have an announcer. They had somebody who would call up the classes, but no announcing would happen. So I started looking out there, and Dick Wilson radioed up. They had walkie-talkies and said, hey, tell that guy that's up there to tell the next class to get up, stock heavy. So I got on the microphone, stock heavy, come up to the grid. I'm not an announcer. And so I'm looking, and they start racing. And I know the people that are racing, and I'm saying, boy, nobody's saying what's going on. So I just started saying, so-and-so's in the lead, and this guy's in second. And next thing I know, on the walkie-talkie, Dick Wilson says, keep doing that. and that's how it started. I mean, to this day, I tell people I am not an announcer. There's so many better people out there that are really professional, and I have no training at all as an announcer, but somehow, just calling a race, and some people like it, and probably some other people say, who is this guy? And he can't even pronounce a name right. So and that's happened to me plenty of times, but that's how I got into the announcing, and then eventually did all the announcing for the Gold Cup, which was great because I knew all the racers and I followed every race. So I could really give at least a background. Maybe I wasn't that you didn't have the greatest announcing voice and all of that, but I could, really tell a story up there and,
Sure.
and keep things going. So that's a quick, rundown right now.